Hey everyone, welcome to Grab a Stack of Rock on Friday, December the 20th. It is our top 5 of 2024 episode. How are you doing tonight, Harrison? We cannot hear you, Harrison. You are muted. You are muted. We cannot hear you. I cannot hear you. Is it just me? Can anyone hear Harrison? We are having technical difficulties tonight. Can anyone hear Harrison? I cannot hear Harrison. Can the viewers hear Harrison? Is it me who is muted, or is it Harrison? Please tell me. Okay, it's Harrison who's muted. No Harrison. Okay, so I'm going to get started. Tonight, we have, obviously, we've already had our first hiccup. We have Tim Durling joining us tonight. We have some surprises tonight. One of our surprises will hopefully be joining us soon. But I guess before we get started with the actual top 5, I will do my runners-up. So, I have a stack of runners-up here, and some of them are, you know, they're albums that maybe could make the top 5, but maybe they just arrived a little too late for me to fully absorb. So, we have, first of all, Dr. Catherine Ledano's new album, Anatomy of the Recovering Brain. It's a collaboration with Frank Horvat, who she's worked with before. He is a composer, and she is a bass clarinetist. And like all of her solo albums, this one is very personal. This is about her journey of a concussion that she had a concussion like 4 years ago, and she's still in recovery. So that's what this album is about. And Harrison, we cannot hear you, so I don't know what we can do about that. Second, we have an album that just arrived here last week at Grab a Stack of Rock HQ. Thomas Polychuk. He's been on the old show, the LeBrain Train. He is a, he's all over the board, but this album is progressive rock in a serious way, like kind of like a Dream Theater way. In fact, he has Derek Sherinian from Dream Theater on this album. He has Brian Tichy from Whitesnake and other bands, Dead Daisies. He has, what's the other guy? Simon Phillips on drums. This is very progressive. And then in the middle of it, there's like 2 jazz songs. That's a good question. Can you try to leave and come back in, Harrison? Anyway, this is a fantastic album, and it could very well make, you know, my top 5 in another year, but it only arrived last week, so it's too early to say. It's early days. Then we have an album that was in my top 5 until like a few moments ago when I finalized my list and I had to drop it from the top 5. And that is Paramore's excellent This Is Why album. You wouldn't expect me to be listening to Paramore, but surprise, surprise. I really like this album. I've been getting more into like the pop side of rock music in my later years as I age. Bought this at Toys R Us. Even though it says HMV there, they kind of like have a little HMV mini store inside Toys R Us. But yeah, This Is Why. And I think the reason why I chose This Is Why is because I really, really like the singer, Hayley Williams. I think she's absolutely fantastic. I have never seen a person front a band with this much energy as she does. She is singing, she is dancing, she is not miming. She has a rather large band behind her, but the core three are on the front cover here. And I think Josh Farrow and Taylor York are their names, the drummer and the guitar player. So yeah, I like Paramore. This is actually my very first Paramore album. Never bought one before, and I liked it. And finally, and this is where we get into a segue here. Even though this album is technically going to be a 2025 release, I have received permission from Max the Axe himself to count this on my 2024 list. So here we have Max the Axe live in Ontario, which I guess technically you can get it now. If you contact Mike Kudis, there's his information right there. Contact Mike Kudis and you can get your own copy of Max the Axe live in Ontario. Now, my written review for this album is going to go up on Sunday. I will say that it is rough. I mean, these tapes were not necessarily meant for release. The first batch of tracks there, called Heads or Tails, date back to 2006. They're all older songs, and I don't think the quality of the older songs really competes with the quality of the newer songs, but that's just my opinion. The second batch of tracks is all newer songs, but it's the very first time they were ever performed by that lineup. It was their very first gig. So with a grain of salt, these are not necessarily tracks that would have had release, but it's historic. You get to hear embryonic versions of the Status Electric tracks. You know, the guitar solos were not all in place and so on. And yes, Roger, call him. Go ahead. That's why he put it on there. And this is not the final artwork, by the way. There won't be that on the final artwork. This is a promo, I guess you could say. But if you want one, that's the guy. Now, Harrison is back. Let's try his audio. Harrison.
Should be working now.
Yes. Okay, now
Sorry.
I have a surprise for you tonight, my friend. I have a surprise.
Is it the man that I can see in the waiting room?
Guess it's not that much of a surprise, but it will be a surprise to the audience. We have a special guest here tonight that's going to be doing his own top 5 of 2024 list. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Meat-tastic himself.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Can hear you, and you're looking good.
Oh,
definitely less shaggy than the last time.
Yeah, the last time I was on the show, I think I looked like all the bad guys in the Scooby-Doo thing to get the monster thing ripped off, and that's what I looked like.
Kind of, yes. Now, as you know, we used to like to start this show with a little thing we called Ask Harrison.
Yes.
And also to address a question from Mr. Henry Wright. No, Jex is not with us tonight, but Jex is with us tonight because he's the guy who has a question for Harrison. Harrison, are you ready for your question tonight? I hope so. Harrison, I think, oh my God, we're having so many technical difficulties.
I think he's buffering or something.
He's buffering. Okay, so instead of going to Harrison, can you hear me? Okay. Are you okay, Harrison? Oh, no,
now you're
no audio. No audio.
Now you're muted again, Harrison. I don't know what happened there.
Okay, so I'm just going to remove him from the stage and
very strange.
Put this comment back up saying I can hear Mike, but not Harrison. Okay, so we have that problem again. So Meat, may as well kill some time here. Talk to me. Well, you haven't heard it. You haven't heard it.
Well, the truth is, you know way more about this than me. I don't have the album. I haven't heard the album. But you have informed me. And I agree with you.
Is that working now?
We have him back. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, thank God. For how long, though?
Yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna quickly say this, and we'll stop talking about the Max the Axe thing.
My review goes up Sunday, so all the deets will be up.
You are absolutely right to say that it's rough because, like I said, like the old stuff that I kind of hybrid sang over, like Unleashed in the East, like Kiss Alive, kind of thing.
That's all we'll say.
That stuff was old, okay, and then the farm stuff. Like I'm just taking right off the board. We don't know how that. I mean, it may be rough, but a Roby Banerjee, who is a bit of a legend in KW because he worked with the Rolling Stones and Rancid and many others. He did a really good job. It was a lot of fun to work with him. I hope you guys can appreciate it. Thank you.
Read the review on Sunday, and decide for yourself. Okay, Harrison, are you ready? Okay, we can hear you. We used to like to start the show with a little thing called Ask Harrison. Now that you're back from your sabbatical, would you like a question from Mr. Jex Russell?
I don't think I have much of a choice in the matter.
You do not. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Mr. Jex Russell.
Oh, hey, Harrison. What a surprise. I have a question for you. Regarding the beach in Australia. I'm just wondering the location exactly. Like, is the beach this way? Or are we talking more this way? Let me know. I'm curious. Looking forward to your answer. Talk to you soon. All right, Mike, you got your shirtless footage. Now give me my $50 and leave me alone.
He looks like John Krasinski on a boat, dancing to Taylor Swift, but he has his shirt off.
The comments are going wild. Oh, you don't have to answer that, Harrison. That was.
Oh, don't worry, I can answer. On the
Okay.
assumption that you can still hear me.
Yes.
Well, because I live in Australia, technically speaking, the beach is in any direction. It's just a question of how far. But the closest beach for me is west, which is that way.
Okay.
Where I'm sitting right now.
Excellent. Okay, I apologize to Peter Kerr specifically. I apologize to Peter Kerr for popping on the first thing he sees shirtless Jax. Oh my God. The comments have gone wild. All right. So let's get serious. We're doing our top fives.
One quick thing I want to say. Harrison, I haven't seen you in a long time. It is really good to see you. You look like
good to see you again too.
You look like a bassist from Foghat in the 70s with that stash, man.
Yeah.
I love it.
Looking great, buddy.
Yeah.
But enough about how men look tonight. We are doing our top fives of 2024. And as I alluded to at the beginning when I was doing my runners up, my top five has changed within the last hour. But we're ready. We're ready to do this. And we're going to start with Mr. Harrison Kopp. You guys can do your runners up after. I did mine to lead into me showing up. So start with your number 5 pick, Mr. Harrison Kopp. Go ahead.
Where is Tim, by the way?
For a second, I thought you were going to cut.
I apologize. Tim is at a basketball game, and he'll be joining us in about 20 minutes.
Okay.
For a second, I thought you were going to cut to Cinco de Listo, and so I wasn't ready. I didn't have it in my hand, but here we go. All right, so this album was just released at the end of November, so it's the album that I've had the least amount of time with, so it may go up a spot or two depending on how much I can digest it in the future. That album is Nightwish and Yesterwind. This is their third album with Floor Jansen. There's definitely some really good stuff on here. I love the 1, 2, 3 of the Antikythera Mechanism, The Day Of, and Perfume of the Timeless. I'm really locked in for that bit, but I find that the second half of the album has just too many songs that are like slow intro, then gets going, and then the next one is slow intro, then gets going, and it just sort of makes the listening experience tiresome, because you stop starting. You can't just like get into a rhythm or a flow. So that's probably part of the reason why I haven't been able to fully digest the back half of this album yet. But the stuff that's good is great. But yeah, 5th place for on account of just simply to its newness and the sort of structure of the album.
I'd like to check that out.
We already have our first comment, number 5, with Johnny Klauser and Paul Diano's War Horse. I think we might be seeing more Maiden-related things tonight, but we'll see. We'll see. Eric, Uncle Meat. What is your number 5?
My number 5. Okay, well, this was an interesting thing for me because, there's a lot of albums that maybe I've heard a couple songs from or one song from or whatever, and I couldn't keep them and I couldn't put them in my top 5. So I'm going with the albums that I've heard all of. And number 5. Okay. This year, and well, really the last few years, but especially this year, I've really, really been diving into old pop that I love. Sometimes in bands that I used to not like at all. This particular one isn't one that I didn't like at all. I've always liked this band, but I recently, as well, have had a resurgence in my love for the band Kurt Smith and Roland Orizabal of Tears for Fears. They released a live album. They actually the album has 4 songs to start off that are new songs, and they're very good. And then the rest is a live album. I really, really love it. I mean, some of the versions are great. One of my favorite songs of all time is Head Over Heels, which is a song I love so much. And the version on there is so good. And they even go into Broken right after it, which I really love. So, yeah, my number 5 is a live album. And it's Tears for Fears. And I will always love the band. And that's my number 5.
Well, as you may or may not know, this was the year that I bought my own first Tears for Fears album. So I bought Tears Roll Down, and I think that was from Sonic Boom. And it's one of these old, nice Fontana discs, really thin compared to a modern CD. Nice one, Uncle Meat. Now, without further ado, and just in time, please welcome all the way from the East Coast. It's Tim's Vinyl Confessions. Oh, shit.
Isn't that fitting?
Oh, and
it's Tim's chair.
Oh, and he's got his hat on. That's awesome. And look at that. The Target version is bonus track. So thank you, Henry, because Henry knows me. Henry's been with us for over a year now. Tim, how are you doing tonight?
Good. Hello, Harrison, Meat, Mike. How you all doing?
Yes,
Tim,
please
it's good
welcome
to see you, Santa.
our surprise down here. He decided that he was going to join us today, and you missed all the train wreck beginning, and you also missed Shirtless Jacks.
Oh, that was amazing. Mike, can you catch
Shirtless Jacks for years?
Can you catch Tim up on the two picks he missed only?
Yes. Okay.
Good timing.
Okay. So far, Harrison has picked Nightwish, and I can't remember the name of the album.
Yesterwind or Yesterwind. I've never heard it pronounced, so I can't tell you which one.
Probably Yesterwind, I would think.
That was mine.
Eric picked the new Tears for Fears live studio hybrid album.
Got that.
And the album has a great title for now. It's called Songs for a Nervous Planet. That's pretty relevant.
Yeah.
And in other catch-up news, I did my runners-up, and in a significant change of running order, Paramore got knocked off the top 5 and is now a runner-up. But you guys are going to do your runners-up at the end. I was just doing that as a segue to get Meat on the show because I was this one. So now you're caught up. And Tim, how are you doing tonight?
Really good. Just came back from watching our little 9-year-old niece play basketball. It was fun. Cute.
Did she win?
They did. 30-10. Yeah. But both teams were, it's just cute to watch. But I'm here now. I'm ready. I'm going to be sweating to death. So the hat can go bye-bye.
I'm trying to figure out how to get these comments from going over Tim's face, and I'm having issues tonight. I apologize. I don't know how to fix that. So
hold on. There, I just
actually, if you don't mind,
that's one way to do it. That's
let's go with that. So, Tim, give us your number 5 album from the year 2024.
Yeah, I actually don't have any runners up because wasn't much of that that caught my attention. But my number 5 is an album that Mike and I reviewed on Tim's Vinyl Confessions earlier this year. An album I didn't know was coming because I thought this band was done. Mr. Big. The 10 album, their 10 studio album. Obviously Pat Torpey is gone. He's been replaced by Nick. I can't pronounce his last name, Virgilio. Or I can stop commenting stupidities to see Tim. No, don't ever stop commenting. I think this is a really good album. Surprisingly, there's not a lot of Billy Sheehan on here. That might be common knowledge to most. But the album doesn't suffer for it. It's a great bunch of songs. And I know that he was having problems live, but Eric Martin sounds great on here. And My attitude is I don't get to see that many shows anymore, and maybe these singers can't cut it live anymore, but keep making new music. You know, if you can do it in the studio, keep making new music. More new music, more music, not less music. So yeah, that's my number 5. It's really, really good. My number 5 for 2024, Mr. Big's 10 album.
My number 5 for 2024 is Mr. Big's 10 album, which knocked Paramore off the top 5 because I played it, I don't know, maybe Wednesday of this week, and all these songs came coming back to me. Good Luck Trying, the opener. It's got that kind of Detroit Rock City cadence to it, but it's nothing like that. But that song I Am You, the second track, there's so much great stuff. I like Sunday Morning Kind of Girl.
Really good.
The last song, 8 Days on the Road. Oh, there's so much good on this album.
Did we
and
ever
I
figure
honestly
out who's singing that, Mike?
No, we didn't. We never found out. And I've also, for viewers, if you can help me out, I've never found the version with the alternate bonus track. I have the version with 8 Days in You. Sorry, 8 Days in You. No. 8 Days on the Road.
Mike. That's a movie.
Oh, God.
That's
Anyway.
Stack After Hours.
Yep, that's blue. Anyway, I don't have that version. If you can help me out, I'd appreciate it. I have some Christmas money coming. The last thing I wanted to say was that I kind of binged this album when we did that Tim's Vinyl Confessions, as I often do. I immerse myself in an album for an entire week when I do a show like
He
TBC.
binges, then he gets sick, and it's a whole thing.
Well, that's exactly right. That's my point, is that I stopped listening to it. And then I put it on again this week because I was like, oh, crap. Yeah, Mr. Big put out an album. And all of a sudden, bam, into the top 5 it went. And Dan says his friend saw Mr. Big in Toronto this summer and loved it. And I think Eric Martin is sounding great as his voice has aged. You know, not all singers do continue. Yeah. Well, Jex was the catalyst. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say. Harrison, you're number 4.
Am I still audible?
Absolutely, my friend.
Good. Whew. Yeah, all right. So you mentioned Maiden alumni, and we will get one of those with Bruce Dickinson, the Mandrake Project. The 3D cover version, and then there's the actual... what annoys me about this album is that the 3D cover is too big to go on like a jewel case.
Just a little bit too... Yeah.
But the booklet is too small to properly fill out the jewel case. So because this is one of these slipcase covers where the disc goes in, I like to take the disc out, put it in a jewel case, and then I take the booklet, put the booklet in the jewel case as well. But it's too dang small, and this thing is too dang big for it. But anyway, that's my gripe about the packaging complete. As an album, I really, really love half of this album, and the rest of this album just doesn't do it for me. Many Open Doors to Hell is amazing. Rain on the Graves is great fun. Faith in the Mirror is the first time in probably 50 years that I think that Bruce Dickinson has done a great job at a really slow song. I've often been very critical of his ability to sing the softer, or inability to sound good singing the softer, but I think he finally nails it with Face in the Mirror. And as the Iron Maiden's The Book of Souls is one of my favorite albums of all time, getting to hear Eternity Has Failed Again, but in a slightly fresh and new sound, is like seeing an old friend again. But that's about it. I don't mind Afterglow of Ragnarok, but I think the chorus goes on a bit long and it's a bit aimless for my liking. But other than that, I can't tell you about any of the other songs. They just don't do it for me. It's a shame because I really love half of this album. I think it's some of the best music we've got in 2024 period, but the other half it's just in one ear out the other, unfortunately.
I'll share my thoughts on that later on. Johnny Metal in with Saxon, Hell, Fire, and Damnation. Another album I haven't heard.
I haven't heard it either.
Henry's not a big one for lists, but I thank you for watching anyway. Bruce is on his list. And as for Dan, he owns Mr. Big and Bruce Dickinson. But reminder, Dan said earlier he is not going to share his list on these comments because he's doing his own show. So we look forward. Check out Off the Charts on YouTube. Give him a watch. That was the guy that we did the Mighty Wind and Spinal Tap shows with. We had a lot of fun. And Meat, you were a part of both those shows?
Both.
Or just
both, yeah.
Yep. Both those shows.
Both,
okay.
Yeah.
Your number 4 of 2024.
I will say I am definitely curious to hear that Bruce Dickinson. I could see it being very similar to what Harrison has said, but I'm guessing. But I also trust Harrison. So anyway, number 4 is is a bit of an odd duck for sure. This is a Denver band. A Long Island band, Long Island, New York. I heard about this band, and when I first heard about this band, I heard that they were very retro and that they sounded like a mix between the Beatles, the Byrds, and Big Star. And I thought, that was odd. So I checked it out and loved it. And the band is called The Lemon Twigs, with an album called A Dream Is All We Know. And I really, really like this album. It certainly has that Beatles thing, but it's not saturated in that. It's like a spice that is always there, and it's very poppy. I can hear the faces in it. I can hear so many 70s influences, like so many that you can't pinpoint one to say, oh, they're trying to sound like, yeah, that's it. That they're not trying to sound like anybody. I think they just naturally are kind of hippies, and that's what they play, and it's just good softish rock. And that's my number 4, The Lemon Twigs.
Thanks, Meat. I'm going to put these comments on the screen before Tim has to talk for obvious reasons. Again, I apologize. I don't know why it's doing it this week.
No, that's just where it comes up. I was thinking the same thing, John. That reminds me of that band Sparks.
Tons of great music released this year. Yes.
Which I don't know anything about, but I know they pose like that.
Yeah. I have a CD single of them. It's a collaboration with Faith No More. They do a Sparks song called "This Town Ain't Big Enough for the Both of Us."
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Chris P, buddy, if you're posting your list, follow this guy on Twitter. Rock these tweets, and you want to follow this. He's got some cool stuff recently. Some Def Leppard,
especially if you're a Def Leppard fan. Chris has so much stuff I've never even heard of. Never mind, never seen. So
yeah. You should see what he got this week. Japanese import. Tim, your number 4.
Yes. My number 4, all of these albums I've reviewed this year. It's always a fun time when one of my favorite Canadian bands comes out with new music. This year they did. Honeymoon Suite.
Nice.
Their new album, Alive. Actually, not only did Honeymoon Suite put out a new album, but their guitarist, one of my favorite guitarists, Derry Green, put out his very first solo album called Dirty Power. Good rock and roll instrumental album. If you like Satriani, that, where the lead guitar plays what the vocals would be, check it out. Didn't make my list, but it's pretty good. But this Alive album, it's not heavy in the least, but then again, Honeymoon Suite are not a heavy band. It's a pretty short album, short, sweet, to the point. I really like it. I didn't know what to think of the first 2 singles because they put the first 2 singles out like years before the album came out. Sometimes 1 or 2 songs isn't enough for me. I want to hear them all and get the overall feel, but I really like it. This cover to me looks like Hugh Syme could have done it, but it's not.
I think I told you before, I thought it also looked like an Our Lady Peace album.
Well, that's about enough of that. Next.
I'm a mood killer. Anyway, so Chris will be posting his list shortly.
You know those cigarette packages, Mike, that would say or else.
Man, you really don't like Our Lady Peace. Henry enjoys Sparks. He recommends the early 80s albums because that's when he discovered them thanks to MTV. Chris has many more on the way. No doubt. This guy is a serious collector, folks. I'm not kidding. Sparks has a catalog that I need to be off in a land with nobody around and let me listen to continuously. Now that's interesting. And that must
like Martin Popoff would say.
Interesting.
Gotcha. Yeah. I agree, Tim. Amazing album. There you go. It's in his top 10. Spoiler alert. There's a great documentary about Sparks. Okay, thank you. And
speaking of spoiler alert,
Lemon.
all anyone has to do is watch my episode on the top albums 2024, and they'll know what my choices are. But they haven't changed. So
sorry, yeah, I had Dan's comment over your face that whole time. But anyway, this is the picture that Dan's talking about. Yeah, I see what you're talking about, Dan. There you go.
Yeah.
No. Don't spoil, bud. And Dan has
look, here's what I got.
so far I think Dan's got like 3 of the albums that we've put up. Dan probably doesn't have my number 4, but I know Harrison does. And it's the album right behind me there, and the album right in front of me here. And we'll take a closer look at that signed vinyl in a bit. But it's a bit of a cop-out for me to put a covers album in my top 5. I mean, it's a covers album. But how much joy did this covers album bring me in the last half year? So much joy. I'm just going to read you these songs. I've never heard some of them, like Dancing on My Own, but it sounded like Aha to me. I think that one was by like Robin or something like that. Then we have I Want You Back by the Jackson 5. You Making My Dreams Come True by Hall & Oates. As It Was by, I think that's Harry Styles. We got some Sledgehammer, Peter Gabriel. Then we have Gimme a Man After Midnight, which they covered on their iTunes EP, but Harrison will talk about more about those two versions later, I'm sure. Dolly Parton's 9 to 5. I Want to Dance with Somebody by Whitney Houston.
That's a great song.
A really great version of Dancing in the Dark by Bruce Springsteen. Power of Love, Huey Lewis and the News, and then finally Dancing Queen. So we got 2 ABBA songs.
A lot of dancing.
On this. A lot of dancing. And, you know, they're very much the kind of band that you can dance to, their latter stuff. Now, this is way more pop than a lot of people would think that I would like. But for whatever reason, this band has just grabbed onto my heart. And I don't think anyone could really deny their musicianship. As far as I'm concerned, they have one of the best rhythm sections I've heard come out of this country in recent years. The drummer, Tim Oxford, he seems like somebody who's probably done some jazz training. The bassist, Nick Dika, is freaking incredible. He's that kind of bassist that I like, that plays a lot of notes, you know, but he's also got an incredible groove. He's got that perfect mix. And again, it's a cop-out for me to put a covers album on it, but it brought me so much joy this year. I am biased because I try to like promote this band as much as I can. I've brought them up on the Contrarians like twice now. So again, that's my bias, but I think I may be justified at some point later on in these lists, perhaps when Mr. Harrison Kopp goes. I did promise we'd look at the vinyl. So there is my signed copy. And it's a beautiful record. We'll show you the vinyl itself. It is absolutely gorgeous. Look at that. Look at that purple, blue, clear splatter. It's really nice. I haven't played it. Why bother? Why bother? Use it as a coffee table, as Nigel Tufnell once said. No, that was David St. Hubbins that said that. I misquoted.
Yes.
Oh, and we have Darcy in the house. How are you, buddy? Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, Darcy. Let's go to the comments before we go to round 3 with Harrison. I do not own that one. Yep, I predicted correctly. I'll think about it, Chris. We
Not
have
Drastic
many
Symphony, surely.
No, that was 2023.
Oh, thank God.
Def Leppard did not put out an album this year. Well, they did. They put out that Mill, that
They put a
Lead
live.
Mill.
They put a new album out.
Yeah, but he won't put that as his number 1.
Yeah.
If they've never been released before, it qualifies.
I'm saying a covers album qualifies if it's never been, rad dance. Not exactly disco, but they could give it a disco spin, I'm sure.
You would hate my bass playing. I have a feeling maybe, Dan, your bass playing and my bass playing is similar.
I hear Mike can play the radio really good.
Hey, Jake, not from State Farm. Glad to see you, buddy. Okay, now on to round 3. Harrison Kopp, your number 3.
All right, so a man that we lost this year went out with a really solid album. Stupid reflection. Paul Di'Anno's Warhorse. As mentioned, very solid album. I'm going to sort of compare this one to the Bruce album in terms of how I'm going to describe it. So whereas the Bruce album had really high highs and then like really low lows for me, this album is a lot more consistently good throughout, even if the highs on this album don't reach as high as some of the Bruce albums. Just about every song, does something for me. And there are some really good ones here, including an oddball one, the cover of Depeche Mode's Precious. Paul Di'Anno has a unique set of influences, and he really does this song well. It's a sort of like a more gentle ballad with synth, and this cover is really, really good. Paul always had interesting covers on his albums, and Precious is an album highlight for me, I think, honestly. That's not to say that the quality of the original material isn't up to par of pre-existing songs, just that the cover is so well done and so unexpectedly well done that it's sort of like a pleasant surprise, and so I like it even more because I wouldn't have expected to like it as much. But Here Comes the Night, Going Home, Get Ready, The Doubt Within, all very solid songs. Opening track, title track, Warhorse, also great. Paul went out with a good album. His solo career had been hit and miss before that, but I'm glad he got one last good album in before he left us.
Awesome. Thanks, Harrison, for that.
Now, I hope I was actually audible for all of that,
Yes.
or that would have gone. I know.
Yeah.
You would have stopped me if I.
And Tim, thanks for not doing your joke tonight, because we had enough problems with that.
Mike, I did an interview last night that was well, it wasn't an interview. I was talking to somebody about an upcoming project, and they didn't normally use Zoom, and they've got top of the line equipment, and I could barely hear them. They were talking like a very, very low. We had to switch, believe it or not, we had to switch over to StreamYard.
Oh, that's stretching.
So I'm not in a jokey mood when it comes to that stuff tonight. So don't worry.
Well,
Good thing
sorry. What were you saying, Harrison?
I'll just say, good thing he missed all of our technical difficulties in the beginning. Then.
I just decided to let you guys iron them out first, and then I thought I'd.
Thank you. We have Johnny Klauser in with Accepts Humanoid, an album that I do want, but don't own yet. And Dan, where's Dan? Here he is. Dan just appeared on Johnny Klauser's channel, My Music Corner, doing Accepts Too Mean to Die album. So check that out on his Music Corner of the World with Dan Chartrand. Okay, Eric, Uncle Meat, your number 3.
Number 3. Okay, I guess it's time for some metal. Johnny Metal. Well, this is the Denver band, and a few months ago, I was scrolling around Facebook, and I see this post from Mike Portnoy, and it was him talking about this band and this album. He said that it sounded like Opeth meets Pink Floyd, and then he went on about it more, and I'm like, this sounds pretty amazing, and it was by far Portnoy's album of the year at that point, and it is my number 3. The album is called Absolute Elsewhere, and the band is Blood Incantation. They are exactly what Mike Portnoy said they were going to be. There is prog metal, and there is very, very 70s mood, and it goes back and forth, and I really, really, really loved it. I could have seen them weeks ago in Toronto and didn't, and I totally regret that. But Blood Incantation is my number 3. Great album. I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it to anyone who is into prog metal.
As soon as I saw that cover, I recognized it from many other lists that I've seen posted on Facebook. So you're in good company. We have Darcy in with no list yet, but he likes the Decemberists and Opeth so far. Duplicate comment. And regarding to that Accept show, it was a wonderful show with Dan. And then he did one with me, with Roger, with Jake, with Pete Jones, and with Martin Popoff. It's a great series. So Johnny, pat yourself on the back. You've been doing an awesome job. And Darcy, does he love the I think he loves Meat's pick. I think that's
he had just mentioned Opeth, and putting 2 and 2 together, he probably loves the Blood Incantation. Yeah.
All right, Tim Durling, your number 3 pick for 2024.
I just recently had the pleasure of appearing on Darcy's show as well, and Darcy and Jax did a fun show about favorite Christmas movies. So yeah, lots of good stuff. And speaking of technical difficulties, Mike can attest to this. When we did the Contrarians 2 nights ago, I froze just as it was my turn to talk. Just as it was my turn to talk.
It was a really funny freeze too. It looked
I saw it too.
It looked like a mugshot.
It was just the worst possible time, right?
It did look like a mugshot. That's what it looked like.
Whenever that happens, I always like to come out of that with something like, and that's why you have to ask for the key to public washrooms now. Like just something like that. Okay. So my number 3 for 2024 is I'm actually breaking one of my own cardinal rules because I am not a person for solo albums typically, or anything side projects out of a band. We got a little prog I'm going to be talking about here, and I that post your next Christmas card. Sorry, Dan's distracted me with his comments. But I heard so many comments about how good an album this was, how much it sounds like the band this guy was in, and how great this guy is singing at 80 years of age. And he's got a great band behind him. I reviewed it. Actually, I had Pete Pardo from Sea of Tranquility on to review it with me. It was one of my most viewed episodes of the year, probably because of Pete. And the album is John Anderson, formerly of Yes, and the Band Geeks. Do not let this cover deter you. This is a fantastic album. And I'm not going to go so far as to say it's the best thing Yes hasn't put out in years. But if you like Yes, especially, the classic Yes with a modern twist, which is to say, if you like the 90s Yes albums like The Ladder and Keys to Ascension, there's nothing not to like about this album. And like I said, John is 80 years old, and he is still singing amazingly, hitting those high notes. And the Band Geeks is several players that specialize in really good prog covers. The only name that I recognize outside of this is a guy named Richie Castellano, who is also a member of Blue Oyster Cult. But I mean, there's a picture of the band right there. This album, like if you're a Yes fan, there's nothing not to like about this album. This is a sense I don't file it under Yes, but it sure sounds like it to me. So that's easily actually my first three, my 1, 2, and 3. I could have put in any order. And I did not plan it this way. Yeah, I agree with you, Darcy. Apparently his daughter took that album cover, and so I kind of felt bad because Pete and I kind of trashed the album because it's not much of a cover. But anyway, I didn't plan it this way, but my 5, 4, and 3 for the year are all on Frontiers Records.
That's weird.
I didn't notice that till I put them all together. Anyway, that's my number 3.
Well done,
I gotta
Frontiers.
say, I gotta say, as an old Yes fan, that cover is awful.
Yeah, it's
just awful.
Roger Dean, it is not. But I'm telling you, mate, you should check this album out. I think you'd like it. John and John is singing amazing. Like it sound, and even the background vocals and stuff, like the layered stuff, it reminds you of like I could hear Chris Squire singing and playing that. Like it's just really good.
I'm surprised as well that John Anderson is 80.
Yeah.
No, Dan, don't shut up, Dan. No. And Johnny, the Frozen issues were perfect for that Contrarian show because he had brain freeze for it. That was kind of a baffling topic to some of the participants, but I think we did okay. We did okay.
I think we snatched victory from the jaws of defeat. The MVP in that show was Grant for keeping it all together and the graphics and everything. Especially when we changed things on him.
He was cool as a cucumber. Cucumber.
Yep.
So check out that show on the Contrarians. We did it on Wednesday. It was Swap These Covers, and it was a lot of fun. Yep. Chris P., I had tired of Frontiers releases for a while. Everything sounded the same with Alessandro Del Vecchio all over every album. Thankfully, he's gone now.
He's not on
and Dan is joking. He cannot be silenced. No, you are unsilenceable. Okay, so my number 3 is repeating one of Harrison's earlier picks, but it's a different edition of The Mandrake Project by Bruce Dickinson. Rather than the hologram, I went with the mini comic book edition, which, to be honest with you, I have not read, and I don't care enough about this concept. To this.
Look at that.
I don't really want to read it, to be honest, but there it is. This is better than the actual cover, I think. I don't know. I guess that's up for grabs. I don't really care for that coin cover. Anyway, I agree largely with the things that Harrison said, although I think this album is starting to stick with me a little bit better. I think there's some great stuff on here. Face in the Mirror is one that he mentioned. Eternity Has Failed is one that he mentioned. Afterglow of Ragnarok, I think I like a lot better than you do. I really love Rain on the Graves. Resurrection Men, which is the second single, it's actually one of my least favorite songs. I think the chorus is a bit bouncy. I don't know. Hard to describe what I don't like about it. And Fingers in the Wounds I think is fabulous as well. So I think Bruce came out with a pretty strong album here. I'm very much a fan of Bruce's solo career, as Harrison is well aware. And I think that the trio of Chemical Wedding, Accident of Birth, and no, not Accident of Birth.
Balls to Picasso?
No, the two after Chemical Wedding, which were called God, those three
Tyranny
albums.
of Souls?
Tyranny of Souls, and there's another one in there too.
There's another one.
Chemical Wedding.
Accident of Birth?
Okay, must be the run of Accident.
I'm just listing off Bruce albums I can think of.
Those three. Anyway, that trio of albums, I think is untouchable. I really do. And keep in mind, he had Adrian Smith in the band for two of those albums. So that said, this might be like, I mean, it's not going to crack my top 3 Bruce Dickinson albums of all time. I know a lot of people are praising it and saying, oh, it's better than anything Maiden's done in decades, and it's better than what Blaze put out, and it's better than what Paul put out. I don't know. I don't know if it is or it isn't, because I haven't heard those albums yet. Unfortunately, I would have loved to have got Blaze in time for the show, but I didn't. Anyway, I've babbled on enough. Bruce Dickinson, Mandrake Project is my number 3. It will continue to grow on me, but it requires attentive listening. It's not an easy, cut and dried rock and roll album like, say, Tattooed Millionaire. This is, it's serious stuff. Oh, but I should also add, Bruce is freaking singing amazing for a guy who's had I think he had part of his tongue removed as his cancer treatment. The guy's singing amazing. Truly amazing. Bruce Dickinson deserves top marks for kicking so much ass all over this album.
Well,
Into the top 2.
I need to hear that album.
You do need to hear it. We'll go to the comments and we'll go to Harrison's top 2. That's a great, thank you, Johnny. I meant to do that. Yes, we've had a lot of repetition tonight.
Repetition!
Skunkworks Henry isn't one of my favorites, but we can talk about that another time in more detail.
Awesome.
And the Bruce's album is not long. It could lose a song. Absolutely.
It makes me laugh. That is so cool.
As soon as Mike went to mute, I'm like, here it comes.
Oh, that's awesome. Fuck.
Harrison, what is your number 2?
Yeah, I couldn't really get into Bruce's previous solo work as much as I tried. So for me, 5 amazing songs on a Bruce solo album is like one of the best things he's done for me. But then again, I'm a lot more into Blaze and Paul's solo work. But my number 2 entry now, this is the entry that... Sorry.
I just want to answer Dan real quick. Dan, we did a show, I think it was Metallica, Deep Cuts or something, but it was Metallica. And Tim decided that we were going to play that clip anytime somebody repeated a song, which happened quite frequently. Sure, Tim, we'll play it next time we have a repetition. We'll do the full-length version. Okay, Harrison, you're number 2. What?
He said it.
What did he say?
The word. You
what
said
word?
the word.
What word? What are we talking about? Can we maybe we'll just go to Harrison's number 2 because I'm not following.
Yeah, maybe so.
Harrison, you're number 2.
There won't be any of the R word with this entry. So this is the entry that gets me kicked off Stack of Rock, gets my co-hosting privileges revoked because this is a modern pop artist. This is an outlier in my collection, and this is Dua Lipa with Radical Optimism.
Wow.
No idea who that is. No idea.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
She's really hot and has an incredible voice.
Yeah, she has a fantastic voice. Like, she just released a live album, and unfortunately the CD was delayed, so I don't have it yet, but I've listened to it on YouTube and I love it. She's backed with an orchestra. I think out of all the
songs for sure.
Yeah. Out of all the modern artists, it's the fact that her voice and her singing is good that sort of leans me to it. And the songwriting is good too. Her previous album, Future Nostalgia, I liked it. I loved about 75% of it, but there was about a quarter of it that didn't do it for me. Whereas this album, I didn't expect to like it as much, but I ended up loving just about every song on it. The singles are great. But my favorite tracks are actually 3 album tracks. Maria, French Exit, and then Falling Forever. If you want to hear what she's capable of vocally, listen to Falling Forever. It's no Bruce Dickinson or anything like that, but she's got some talent with her voice. And in addition to that domestic edition that I have with the 3D cover, I also bought the Japanese edition because there's 3 bonus tracks, which are live in studio renditions of the 3 albums, 3 singles, Houdini, Training Season, and Illusion.
Can you flash that 3D cover for us again?
Yeah.
So that's our second one tonight because we had the Bruce Dickinson earlier with your version of.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for 3D covers. If an album
That's
has
wild.
a 3D cover, it's like I'll buy your entire stock.
Now, I'm curious, am I messing this up? Is she not the one that was in a movie with John Cena?
Yeah, she was in the Barbie film.
No, it wasn't the one. I thought it was Argyle. There's a movie with Argyle with Henry Cavill.
I'm not familiar with that one.
Okay, maybe she's been in more than one movie then. That's probably that.
I didn't know she acted, but I'm not the target audience.
So we have Johnny Metal in here with Warlord, Free Spirit Soar. And Dan knows Dua Lipa's legs, but doesn't know her music.
Right, so I'll hand in my co-hosting card now, shall I?
No, of course not. Of course not. Okay, Meat Man, your number.
Okay, before I go to number 2, just please humor me because it's making me laugh too much. Can you please play that Tim video again? Please.
The full-length version coming right up, I guess.
Just play it. It's gonna make me laugh again.
Repetition! 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 Repetition!
He looks so angry.
I just noticed the Lego TIE Fighter in the top right under the 8 tracks. I love that little set. I have that one as well.
That makes me laugh. Okay, my number 2. A few months ago, I got a Facebook message from an old friend and someone who's been on the show before, Mr. Jacob Moon. And we connect on a lot of things. And one of the things we connect on is a certain band. And he sent me this video, and I know his excitement. He sent me this video of this song, of a song that's very important to both of us. And he goes, "You're not going to believe this version. You got to watch this." So I watched it, and it was amazing. And I'm like, wow, I'm going to have to remember John Anderson and the Band Geeks for some reason. And then all of a sudden, the album comes out, and I check it out, and I'm like, okay, this is, at the time, it was the album of the year for me. It's my number 2 because something else came out. I love it. I love the album. There are a couple meandering things that are on the album, but that's John Anderson. I can't even believe he's had 18 albums, and any person who's listened to all the 18 of those albums is a better man than me, because that's
even Pete Pardo admitted, and Pete's got everything.
Yeah.
He admitted he didn't have all of John's solo albums.
He makes it hard listen a lot of times, but that Band Geeks thing, one of the things that helped is when I first heard that album, the first time I heard the album, I watched 2 videos that were live performance videos in the studio, and I had my mind blown. Like exactly what Tim said. It sounded like Chris Squire. It sounded like his bass. It sounded like his background vocals. I mean, Rush is my favorite band. Yes is my second favorite band. I could not like this album more. The song "Counties and Countries." I have listened to that.
Oh yeah,
15 times.
So it's
20 times.
It's so catchy.
It's perfect. It's a perfect Yes song. And you're right. It's very more like the Keys to Ascension stuff. It's almost more like Trevor Rabin stuff.
I don't hear so much Steve Howe as I hear Trevor Rabin. I hear more of that style, but I'm okay with that.
And I think
he's got a live album coming out, Meat?
I've heard about the live album. Yeah. And how could that not be good?
Quite a bit better. Unfortunately, there's nothing from this new album on it. It's all 70s, yes, but I'm still.
See, that's too bad. I would love to hear that stuff live, at least a few.
We don't need to hear another live version of Starship Trooper. I want to hear something off this album.
You're absolutely right, and I think the one thing, like you said, I think it's more like Trevor Rabin and less like Howe, because he's been battled with Howe, like old fucking children for years now. It's unfortunate that it's been that. It's really is unfortunate. But I probably talked more about this than I should. And yes, I made you play the video for a reason, because there was repetition. And I did actually predict to Mike that you would either Tim would match with one of my albums, and I was right. There you go, number 2.
Well, speaking of repetition, there's a lot less, given Harrison's list the way it turned out, a lot less than I thought there was going to be. But in regards to Dua Lipa, Argyle does have it, and Henry said he was going to watch it on the pay-per-view site. Not a good deal. And I know what he's talking about. Sometimes I'm seeing these $30 rentals, and it's like, no way, absolutely no way. And as for Chris, why don't you post it tomorrow morning? Why don't you do that? I think you should do that. Anyway, on to Tim Durling's number 2 pick for 2024.
My number 2 pick was another pleasant surprise, because it's a solo catalog. I've only got one other album by this guy. He's one of my favorite singers. I had the pleasure of seeing him in concert this year, and he sounded great. And I am so happy to say he wrote 5 songs off this album, and deservedly so, because it's really good. Toronto's own Sebastian Bach, Child Within the Man. Man, oh man, what a nice surprise this album was. Again, anytime you have an aging singer, you don't know what you're going to get live. They still sound great in the studio. Keep on doing new music. This is an incredible album. It's pretty heavy in spots, but it's not. A lot of what I don't like about some of Sebastian's solo stuff is when he tries to be too heavy, when he tries to be Pantera. He's got one of the most amazing voices. When he uses it melodically, there's nothing like it, and he's doing more actual singing on this album, and that's what I love about it. But it's got plenty of heavy stuff. Jex was at the show. He can attest to that. Kept his shirt on, thank God. But surprisingly enough, even though I really think there's a lot of highlights on this album, like Freedom is great, Hold On to the Dream, What Do I Got to Lose, Vendetta, one of my favorite songs in this album, and I reviewed this effort. I reviewed this album with Ches on my show, and Ches heard what I was saying, because the last song on this album is a really, really good ballad called To Live Again. And when I listened to that song, I thought to myself, if I ever get a chance to meet Sebastian, I would say, when you did that song, did you say to yourself, if I was going to do a Boston ballad, what would it sound like? It sounds like Boston to me. And he could hear what I was talking about, the chord changes, like the way
like Amanda
sang.
Boston.
Yeah, like I can hear Brad Delton singing the melody of that song To Live Again. It's a beautiful ballad. In another time, it could have been a hit single. Of course, we know that doesn't happen. But I've only got his album Kicking and Screaming. That's the only other one of his solo albums that I've got. What else I've heard, I have not been impressed by, because it's just, I don't know. But this album came out. I saw the first 2 videos. I liked them. And he sounded fantastic live. He did about 5 songs off this album. He did, I think, 9 of 11 songs from the debut Skid Row album, because it's the 35th anniversary. I don't even know how that's possible, that 1989 is 35 years ago. But yeah, he's got a great band. I still think he needs a second guitarist, but man, he sounded great. So that's my number 2, Sebastian Bach, Child Within the Man.
And I'd be curious where that sits on Jex's list. We have to twist his arm and get a list out of him. We have a lot of comments. Roger Stevens, what is a Dua Lipa? Well, that was Harrison's number 2 pick. So check out Rock These Tweets on Twitter for Chris's top 25 list tomorrow. He agrees with Tim on the Bach. Great album. And Roger should check out that Bach album. Dan saw Bach in Ottawa, and he was great. Skid Row don't want anything to do with him. That is true, Johnny Metal. I also don't have it, Dan, so it didn't make my list either. No, I don't think any amount of money, man. I really don't. No. And Henry, thanks for tuning in. We will catch you tomorrow. And yeah, he is doing fine. Okay, my number 2. And I hope we'll see some repetition later, but I'm kind of doubting it now.
Some what?
One of my favorite bands in the entire world, top 5, put out a freaking great album.
He's gonna do it live for us, man.
He's gonna do it live, is he?
Repetition.
The acoustic version.
I thought it was like the Tiny Tim version.
Yeah.
Can you guys guess what my next pick is based on what I just said? One of my favorite top
Well, 1 or
5
2
bands.
is going to be Priest, basically, for you.
Invincible Shield is my number 2. Now, listening to this back to back with Firepower, I can't necessarily decide if this is truly better than Firepower because I love that album too, but it's strong. Now, I do think our good friend Martin Popoff, I do think he did an exercise in hyperbole earlier this year when he said it was the best Priest album since like Hellbent for Leather or something like that. He said there's one song in here that does recall Hellbent for Leather, and it's called Fight of Your Life. And for some reason, it's the bonus track, but it has a really cool 1970s Priest riff. Rob is sounding great. There's a lot of songs here that I would say should be on a Judas Priest greatest hits kind of anthology. Serpent of the King is great. Devil in Disguise is great. Crown of Horns. Oh my God. What a melody. Hits me right there. As God Is My Witness. Another one. Just a killer. Giants in the Sky is okay. But the bonus track Closer, The Lodger, is very different for Judas Priest. They don't have any other songs that sound like The Lodger. And I just think this is a fabulous album. Not keen on the artwork. The color palette is very Star Wars, The Force Awakens. I don't know.
What does the back cover look like? Does that have the image that I...
Has this...
yeah, I think that
like
would have been a far better album.
The Angel of Retribution, perhaps, or maybe even the Painkiller.
Change the title as well to match that.
This would make one of those great contrarian shows. The back cover should have been the front cover, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, if you do not have Invincible Shield by Judas Priest yet, it is my number 2 pick. I think it is fabulous, even if it didn't make Harrison's list. I was kind of hoping it would, but here we are. Invincible Shield, Judas Priest. And do get this Target edition. I don't know. I can't remember which chain sells it in Canada, but I got this in Canada. Get it for the 3 bonus tracks because Fight of Your Life, the first bonus track, Fight of Your Life, is the best freaking song on the album, in my humble opinion, and I think probably other people's opinions too. Yeah, my number 2. So let's go to the comments. We have Tim Canito's high notes. Oh, you know what? I get it. The Tim's version. That's like the Taylor Swift thing. Taylor's versions. Eric is an amazing singer, referring to Eric Grunwald of former Skid Row. He missed his calling. Another Priest killer album. Yes. Invincible Shield. Oh, Johnny Metal. Nice, buddy. He thinks it's better than Firepower. Maybe it is. Look at all this love for Invincible Shield. My God. The acoustic B-side of the metal version of Repetition.
That's Tim's MTV Unplugged version.
Roger, number 1 album for Roger. Chris likes the cover. Okay. Oh, I have that Priest album. Look how he's keeping his cards to himself, though. He thinks it's a little bit better than Firepower. He has the vinyl with a 45 with the 3 bonus tracks. Cool. So you can get it on vinyl. There you go. Okay. Thank you. Why was it left off the album? Dan, if they paid me to make these decisions, then we wouldn't have these questions. Okay.
But the bonus track, they mean the acoustic version of Repetition?
I want more
Repetition off the album. I said it to him.
You know what, Tim? I'm going to isolate that clip and use it in the future, just like I've used Johnny Metal's acoustic version of Grab a Stack of Rock.
I'd love to
hear if you can get him to harmonize with himself.
What's that, Harrison?
See if you can get him to harmonize with himself.
A challenge, but I can do it.
I don't do that when people are watching.
I wonder how long until Lars sues you.
Well, see, it's one of those things where, like, it's so out of tune that the algorithm probably wouldn't even recognize it as that melody.
It never
Fair.
has. It never
Yeah.
has.
It's fair.
Anybody want to say any last words before we head into the number one album of the
That was
year?
a bit ominous.
Yeah.
suppose.
that's-
Yeah,
we're
we
still
might
on.
Any last words?
Because we do have because we do have runners up, and I still want to show off
Yeah.
some books. So
You know, Mike, it's like when the difference between saying to somebody, have a nice day, and saying, enjoy the next 24 hours.
10-minute
Oh.
dance remix. Oh,
Okay,
God.
so hold on. Michael, get the clip and
Yeah, we're
I'll
just
just
going to
start
dub that.
beatboxing. Yeah.
All right, so without further ado, Harrison kicking off the final round. The number one album of the year, which I already know what it is. Please show us the new Blades Bailey.
Well, I was going to do my honorable mentions first.
No,
and
we're
then
doing them
talk
after.
about
We're doing them after.
Okay.
Oh, we're doing them after?
Yeah.
Yeah. Blaze Bailey first.
Just do it.
We all know it.
To absolutely no one's surprise, Blaze Bailey with album of the year for me. It is slightly inferior to War Within Me. Like, my biggest worry was this album was that he would fall very short of War Within Me, because War Within Me was amazing. But I think this album is really good, even if it's not up to that level. And similarly to Iron Maiden's Senjutsu, which didn't exceed the Book of Souls, but was different enough to justify its existence, this album as well is different enough, even though the production is reminiscent of War Within Me, so you're at home as soon as the first song kicks in. It is different enough. One of my favorite songs in here is Tears in Rain, which is absolutely a Blade Runner song. There's this great line, and one of my favorite lyrics in all of music, which is so hard, we are the ones made to fight and die, so hard to kill but not worthy of life. He's talking from the point of view of a replicant there. Circle of Stone, the title track, amazing as well. It's got a cameo appearance. It features Nicholas Stalvind of Wolf, who does a really good job at sounding awesome and complementing Blaze well, both when they're sort of harmonizing and when he gets his own verse. It is perhaps slightly long. It could have cut maybe a song or two at 12 songs, but it's hard. It would be hard to decide which one because they're all great. And I love this cover art so much as well.
And that's our
So
second
vibrant.
autographed edition that we've seen tonight. So
Yeah, you can buy them from his site directly, autographed, and then that's
which is what I want to do.
Yeah, that's the cover without it. Yeah, the full cover. This was awesome to make out of Lego. It was awesome to listen to, and it's awesome to look at. So
Thanks,
I believe
Harrison.
last time Blaze released an album, he was my album of the year. So I guess the moral of the story for everyone else is don't release an album when Blaze is.
War Within Me is incredible, and I would put it in my top 5 of that year for sure. Roger hasn't listened to any Blaze yet, but then he begged me not to post that comment because Harrison will have a heart attack. But I think Harrison can take it. I don't think he's too offended by the fact you haven't listened to Blaze
As
yet.
a Blaze Bailey fan, I have to deal with this shit all the time.
There you go.
Built up an immunity.
That's not Harrison's problem.
No, Harrison Mark II is a reference to the fact that the first time I logged in,
We froze.
I had all
We
these
didn't have no
difficulties.
audio. Yeah.
And then I came back and I was good. Thankfully, we haven't gone to Mark III.
No. Okay, so Harrison, thank you so much. We have to set some ground rules here. I have a feeling we'll see some repetition in the runners up, but I'm not going to play repetition for runners up, only for songs on the list. We have to be fair about this.
Do I do my runners up now or after everyone else?
We'll do a round. I've already done mine at the start of the show, and then we'll do you guys. Tim doesn't have
okay.
any. We'll do you two. Now, Roger is glad that you're still alive, but
So
the
am I.
question is, will Meat give us any repetition? And I will tell you right off the bat, if you want to cheat and throw an album in here just so you can hear that track again, go right ahead.
I'm tempted just to completely abandon my number one, but no, I'm not going to do that. One thing I'm going to say though, I with all the comments from Roger, hi Roger, I saw something about you possibly being able to call Max the Axe. Rewind in this video, find that phone number. Oh, and call him, please call him. I want that to happen. I just, there it is. I'm not, anyway, I think it's too much if I say the number. Please call him. Anyway, okay. Down to my number 1.
Operators are
Number
standing by.
If you call now, we'll throw in.
It's a Max the X telephone. Yeah, there we go.
You know, there's like 15 people watching that just saw Max's phone number. Who knows what's gonna happen?
Oh, I love it. Okay, my number 1. I might get a little preachy because I don't just believe that this is the best album of the year. I believe this is, to me, the best album in the last few years. And it only came out less than a month ago. And that's how much I love it. When an album comes out on my birthday, November 22nd, which is funny because I was actually watching the show on my birthday. I think it was Tim's Red Rocket book, the Sammy Hagar book thing. I remember it very well. Right after I watched that show, I listened to Opeth, The Last Will and Testament. And I'm telling you right now, if you are a fan of anything to do with Opeth, you will love this album. I started getting into Opeth with an album called Ghost Reveries, and it was a mix of the growling vocals and the clean vocals. And then they did an album called Pale Communion. I love that even more. That was not a growling. That was all clean vocals. And I love it. And I love the progness of it. I love the Yes and ELP and Genesis and Jethro Tull of it. Love it. So to me, Michael Ackerfeld has always been searching for the perfect mix of heavy and progressive music. And I believe that's what he's done with this. When Pete Pardo did a review of this album, he borrowed a line from Sea of Tranquilia print media. And yes, Michael, there are people that still do print media, other than you. But he started off his review by saying, wow, the mega crowd is going to love this album. ... And then in brackets, make Ackerfeld growl again. Because a lot of people were very much wanting him to do the growls again. And I can't say I was missing it, but I can say this. This album is a glorious example of what prog and extreme metal can be. I love that Ian Anderson plays flute on 2 tracks. I love that Ian Anderson does spoken word on 2 other tracks to accent the concept album of what it is. Like a lot of the album is when it's growl vocals, it's one character. When it's clean vocals, it's another character. It's perfectly constructed. I think it is the best album of Opeth's career, and I highly recommend it for anyone. I can't believe that a bunch of metal guys like Johnny Metal and Roger, no one had this. I don't understand. Maybe it's because it just came out. When you're exposed to it more and you give it a chance, you're going to love it. Opeth, The Last Will and Testament, my number 1 with a bullet.
Call now and get a free slap shop. You're going to love my nuts. I love that. That was, what was it? Vince Offer was that guy's name. Tim, great minds think alike. I feel. This is a serious comment. New entry point for Opeth.
Yeah, but Darcy,
me and Meat should be friends.
Available singles in your area or something.
Somebody else here is talking about Vince Offer's Sticky. Oh, I see you're playing with your Sticky. The one riff on the Opeth sounds like it was stolen from Dream Theater. Roger hasn't posted his list yet, but it's on his list. And Chris and I both need to check out Opeth because although I'm not into the growls, there's probably enough there for me to enjoy. Yep. Darcy's top metal album of the year. And Shem, wow, that's another good one. Great comments tonight, people. Great comments. Thank you for watching. Tim Durling, are you going to give us some repetition for your number 1 album of the year?
I may give you repetition in reverse, which is let's smoke what? I guess we dog is out. guys
I'm
are
just
the
possessed
policies
with an
make
urge
it
to
up,
commit
basic.
crimes after hearing that.
Yeah, something just appeared in the. Oh no. Okay, Mike and I reviewed this album. I was so pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed this album because this is a band I've liked for a long time. I've never loved one of their albums so much that's come out new as I have with Deep Purple equals one.
Wow.
I cannot stop listening to this album. I think it's fantastic. The first album came out in 1968. This is the oldest band in my collection. And this is a great album, effortlessly enjoyable. I don't think it's that different than any of the Bob Ezrin stuff since Now What. Obviously, there's a big change on guitar with Simon McBride in place of Steve Morse. But yeah, he's got his own sound. But songwriting, I just think they keep getting better. And Portable Door and old what's it called? Old Fangled Thing. Yeah, Old Fangled Thing.
New
Lazy
Fangled
Sod.
Thing.
Now a bit on the side. I love that one with the double bass. Great album. I cannot believe I didn't. If you'd have told me at the beginning of the year, yeah, the new Deep Purple will be your favorite album of the year, and I'm like, man, what came out this year, or what didn't come out this year? I love being surprised. Love being proven wrong. These guys, they put out a quality latter-day album, and even though the cover sucks, Deep Purple will never win that many awards for album art. It's hit and miss. But this is a great album. I love it. And it's, I'm as surprised as anybody. It's my number one for 2024. And guys, I actually don't have any honorables, but I have to go. But I thank you all. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Tim.
We'll be seeing you, okay?
Thank you, Tim. Have a great night.
All right.
Bye. Okay, so Tim may be gone, but he's not gone because
Repetition! 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 Repetition!
Well, I know you didn't pick Opeth.
it equals one. It all adds up to one. I'm kind of surprised too. I didn't know what to expect. New guitar player. How can you replace Steve Morse, right? I know Eric would.
Well,
Your perspective will be valuable here.
I've been curious about this, and I'll be honest. As a guy who Steve Morse is still my favorite guitar player, I will honestly say the last couple albums I had no interest in hearing after I kind of heard them once. So, why would I think that them losing Steve Morse would add? But I've heard many good things about what the approach they did and something different to go on. I'm curious.
I really like Simon McBride. Again, how do you replace Steve Morse? Well, they somehow found this guy, this Simon McBride, and he plays. I think his tone is maybe more similar to a guy like Joe Bonamassa, but I really like him. He's obviously not Steve Morse. Steve Morse has a very unique sound and technique that nobody else has. But Simon puts his own twist on those. This comes with a live album, incidentally, this deluxe. So it has Simon's first released performances of some of these Steve Morse songs, such as Nothing at All. And while you can't top the Steve Morse version of that song, Simon plays it just fine. Just fine. Nothing wrong with it. And I really like what they've done here. The songs that Tim mentioned are wonderful. There's no track listing on the back, so I'll have to open it up.
Like live, they couldn't do something like, sometimes I feel like screaming live. That is just signature. Like you wouldn't even want to bother.
I don't think they have. I don't think they have done that one live. There's some great songs on here though. Show Me, the opener, has a great riff. I think this is more riffy than a Morse album, but that's just my perception. There's a song called A Bit on the Side that he mentioned, which has such an incredible groove. I love Portable Door. I love Pictures of You. It's got it's got a weight to it. I love Lazy Sod, of which the CD single has arrived at Grab a Stack of Rock HQ, and I will be reviewing soon. Bleeding Obvious, there's some great songs on here. And the interesting thing is that the track Bleeding Obvious, I think it's Bleeding Obvious, but there's a lyric on here. It all adds up to one. And a few of my fellow reviewers, Pete Jones, for example, has said, I think that's a better title than Equals One. It all adds up to one. I don't know. Very minimalist album cover art here. The box set is far superior. Deep Purple, Judas Priest, these are bands that are in my top 5 of all time. So it makes me so happy that not only are these bands in my top 5, but their new albums are in my top 5. It makes me so happy. Like, there's nothing worse than when a band like, say, Judas Priest came out with an album that I didn't like, which was Jugulator, which was Demolition. It's heartbreaking sometimes when your favorite top 5 bands don't put out an album that you like. Man, Judas Priest and Deep Purple really, they really impressed me this year. I guess we're going to do or Harrison's going, you guys are going to do your runners up. Tim doesn't have any. I've already done mine, but
yeah, I got a few.
Before we go to that, I just want to show you, I don't have a top 3 books that I bought in 2024 because I only bought 3. Bought Red and Black by Tim Durling, the Sammy Hagar listener's guide. It's fantastic. A lot of knowledge in here that I wasn't aware of before, and just really good, fresh appreciation for some songs that you might not remember. Tim Durling also in the same year released this book about Kansas. Repetition. He released this book about Kansas. It has, you know what? Is Darcy in this book? I can't remember. I think Darcy's in this book. It's a panel book. This one's a panel book.
I guarantee you Pete Pardo's in that book because he's the biggest Kansas fan.
I'm in this book. I just turned to a page. Yeah. There's me. I'm in this book. It's a really, I like panel books. I like that format. But anyway, you can get that. And I also want to just continue to support Crime of the Century by Angie Moon. I think that Angie has done a great job here, and I think she needs to know that. This is not one of these Amazon print to order books like Tim Durling did. She sunk a lot of cash into putting this out with a publisher. And, if you can support Angie Moon, this is all stories about true crime that's related to classic rock and roll. So there's a lot of interesting stuff in here, and it's well beyond what you'd think, Charles Manson.
Like Phil Spector.
If I remember correctly, Phil Spector's not even in this book because she has so much other stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And, Angie, she's absolutely meticulous with her research. So check it out. Crime of the Century by Angie Moon. I know a few of our readers have bought it. And Peter Kerr just recently had her on Rock D Dream Nation talking about Led Zeppelin. Oh, cool. And I will also point out to my own chagrin that Peter Kerr disappeared after the Jex Russell shirtless incident. Okay, let's go to the comments and then we'll go to the runners up. Okay. Here we go. Lots of comments. Chris, thank you so much for watching, buddy. Really appreciate it. We'll check out your list tomorrow. Happy holidays to you as well, my friend. God, there's a lot of comments. Okay, I'm scrolling way back. Jesus Christ, were they serving alcohol at Tim's niece's basketball game? I don't even know what that relates to anymore. Oh, Chris was never a fan of Deep Purple. Okay, well, do check it out, buddy. Do check it out. I have that Deep Purple, and yes, Tim, you were right. The first song was Wow. Yep, totally right. Jake forgot that Priest came out this year. Yeah, I know. It was I think it was early in the year. And Panic Attack came out last year. Panic Attack's been out for over a year. He's going to listen to some Opeth, says
Roger. Way to go, Roger.
He hasn't listened to any Priest or much Halford since the My Music Corner series. They did a great series on Priest since their series ended. And Johnny Klauser has a point that sometimes you burn out on these bands when you do series. And thank you so much for your support here tonight, Dan. Liz is trying to kill me. Oh God, this is all he ever does is fight with his wife. So many comments. sometimes I feel like Screaming is arguably in his top 5 Deep Purple songs. You know what? With you, Dan.
I love it. Yeah, I love it.
I think that he's referring to the Judas Priest song "Prisoner of Your Eyes," which is an unreleased bonus track. So many comments here. Oh my god, I can't keep up with these comments. I don't even know what song he's talking about. He likes when Metallica releases garbage. Def Leppard's X.
They've done a lot of that.
Awful, yes. Well, that's interesting. I know Harrison's a fan of Ripper.
Demolition is great.
It all comes back to, I assumed the title mean it all comes back to one due to that lyric. Peace out. Thank you again, Chris. Much appreciated. Mike is speaking heresy. Sorry, Jake. We're just going to have to agree to disagree on those albums, but you and Harrison could have a chat. Johnny Clauser's in the Kansas book, but he's so humble, this guy. He really is.
He really is.
And I too was trying to expand myself. Okay. Runners up. Harrison, go ahead.
All right. So my runners up is basically a laundry list of everything else this year that I bought that was released this year. Plus, I'm going to touch on a couple other things. So first of all, the Arkells left it off my list because it's a covers album. It didn't seem right. I wanted to keep my list as to pure studio albums. Good album, got some great stuff on it. You wanted me to talk about Gimme, Gimme, Gimme. Basically, for me, what makes the difference is that the iTunes version has this understated saxophone solo during the sort of like quiet synthy bit towards the end before the final chorus, whereas the album version doesn't have that, and so that part feels a bit empty otherwise. All right, I didn't buy the Deep Purple, but I did buy the CD single for Lazy Sod because I wanted that version of Highway Star with Simon McBride. I wanted to hear what that sounded like.
Yep, and in my review of Equals One, I commented, why didn't the live album include Highway Star? Because indeed, they did perform Highway Star with Simon, and then like literally a few weeks or months later, that came out, and I'm like, that's why Highway Star isn't on the Equals One live album. Because
see, I didn't buy Equals One because the deluxe edition had the DVD, not the live album.
Right.
And the box set only had the live album, which I thought was a real shame. But I was happy that I could get some live stuff with the CD single.
But I will add, Deep Purple often re-release these live albums as, you know, the tapes, whatever they would call that. The I don't know what tapes it would be. It would be from the previous album. Usually,
Italy 2022.
Yeah. So there's still a chance in 2025. Sometimes they're RSD exclusive. Sometimes they're retail. You never know. All right. Continue, please.
So Ailstorm put out their Voyage of the Dead Mariner or whatever it's called, something like that, EP. I didn't buy that. I just didn't get to it, basically. I haven't heard anything from it, but it did come out. Paul Di'Anno also had an anthology release, The Book of the Beast, which was his final release before he passed. It's a nice collection of sort of some of the tracks from his solo career, handpicked by himself, plus a bonus DVD with some awesome unreleased live footage. The CD also has a couple of new recordings of some of his Iron Maiden songs, both as demos. Wrathchild with, I can't remember his name, but the singer from Dragon Force. But the one that I really liked was Remember Tomorrow as a duet with Tony Martin of Black Sabbath fame.
Odd. On
the bootleg circuit, the classic Paris 1986 Iron Maiden bootleg was released by King Street Records. It's nice to be able to get this on CD in 2024 without having to sort of dig in the back alleys of everything. It's nice to be able to have it. This goes with, they did tour their they did the I'm rambling now, the Future Past tour, so I can't wait till we get a live album from that, but for now I also enjoy a classic 1986 performance. It's not like it's certainly very good sounding for somewhere in time for a tour that doesn't have any official live recording, but there's definitely, if it had been recorded officially, it would have sounded better. But it's still perfectly listenable. I love when Bruce speaks in French. He does the whole running free crowd interaction in French, which I thought was really fun.
He's good at that kind of thing. That's awesome.
Now here's this is a live album, so it was left off my my main list because of that, but it would have been really high on my list. Ghost, right here, right now.
That's the movie?
Yeah, it's the movie soundtrack.
That's the movie. Yeah, I haven't seen the movie.
It's just a live album.
My buddy Tom has been on me to see this movie. I haven't watched it yet. So
this was the first original Ghost material I bought. I did previously buy the Phantomime EP. I love this. Great stuff on it. And I love this cover art too. I was so happy when I was able to do that out of Lego.
I saw that. It was cool.
And lastly, I will talk about Priest. I tried so hard to like Priest. I really did. I just couldn't get into it. I tried listening to it forwards. I tried listening to it backwards. I tried listening to it, picking random songs in that order. But no matter what, I just couldn't get it. It just didn't do it for me. And with all the other things that released this year, I just didn't have the time to give it even more time when there was, in my mind, so much better stuff that was coming out. I bought an unprecedented amount of new releases this year, which is why I suggested doing this show. So Priest, after it didn't click, and then it just fell by the wayside, unfortunately. Like Jake said, I completely forgot that it was released this year.
My thing with that is I remember when whatever track was first released off that album came out, people were like, "Oh, you gotta hear the new Priest. You gotta hear it's so heavy. It's so heavy." And I listened to it and I'm like, yeah, this kind of defines what I've been calling heavy metal bullshit. These guys are 90. This is not real heavy metal. Like it doesn't come from a very authentic place to me. To me, it's very hard to hear that Martin Popoff has said that it's the greatest album since Hellbound for Leather. To me, I just don't understand how it sounds that authentic. I don't understand that. I just don't get that. So maybe I'm missing something, and I'm listening to it with wrong ears. So I don't know. That's my opinion on the Priest.
Jake has to go. Thank you for watching. Jake will be on the show in 2025 to discuss Blaze Bayley era Iron Maiden. Okay, Dan has that Ghost album. He's not a live album kind of guy. Got it for the bonus studio track. Okay, fair. He loves Ghost.
Is there
I
one?
do too.
Is there a bonus studio track on that?
I don't know. I don't have it. I haven't got. Harrison is an interesting fellow, to say the least.
Yeah.
Okay,
as far as I could tell it was all live, but I'm not a Ghost fan.
We'll talk. We'll discuss another time. Meat, do you have any runners up?
I do. I'll be fairly quick. Very, very close to making my top 5. A band that I love very much. I've seen live before. Orange Goblin released an album called Science Not Fiction. And it was very, very good. There's an absolutely amazing track on it called False Hope Diet, which I completely recommend for any metal fan to listen to. It is one great track. Another one. After 20 years on Law and Order, Body Count did an album called Merciless. And I learned about it because I saw Body Count on the Tonight Show. And he talked about how David Gilmour plays on the album, and they do a song, like a cover of Comfortably Numb on it. It's very neat. And I listened to a lot of the album, and I really liked it. Another one is a band called The Aristocrats, which is a jazz fusion band, and they have an album called Duck, and it's all pretty much a concept album about a duck, and that's pretty cool. Jazz fusion and a duck, you gotta love it. Devin Townsend, Power Nerd, is another one, and something I just listened to this afternoon. The band Sweet, which has been around for a long time. They did an album called Full Circle, which is meaning obviously that this is they've announced it's their last studio album. They only have one original member. And I found it interesting because when the Dixie Dregs did the same thing, they called their final album Full Circle. So it's certainly it's a thing that people do. But wow, there is some good stuff on this Sweet album. The first track, Circus, was awesome, and a lot of it was very good. So I'm very impressed by the new Sweet album. And those are my my honorable mentions.
So just you know, just to recap, my honorable mentions were these. We had the forthcoming Max the Axe live in Ontario. We have, Thomas Polachuk. Again, if you like progressive metal, check it out. And then there's 2 jazz tracks in the middle of the album. This guy has amazing chops. It's fully instrumental. We also had Paramore with This Is Why, knocked off the top 5 by Mr. Big, and Dr. Catherine Ladano, Anatomy of the Recovering Brain. Yet another instrumental album and a concept album at that. All righty. That's it, guys. Now, Harrison, as you know, our next show, we're not doing one on Friday. We're doing one on December 31st. It's going to be 9:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time because we're going to just celebrate New Year's Eve and we're not doing a list. We're just having friends on. So I'm not sure who all is going to be on that night. We had a lot of people express interest and it's going to be a pretty full house. But I'm looking forward to that. Meet, you are more than welcome. But Harris and we're just going to take it easy.
Yeah. Don't know.
Who knows?
Don't know on that.
But that's when we'll be back. It's December 31st, New Year's Eve. We're going to do a New Year's Eve drop-in party with a number of guests. Who knows? And Harris and I will take it easy. We're not doing a list. We'll just maybe show off some Christmas gifts if we got some music for Christmas. Hint, hint. I know I'm getting some music for Christmas. So we'll see what happens. All right. Meat Man, you are the guest of honor at the moment. You get to pick the song that we go out on. And I know you don't want it to be a Max the Axe song.
I don't.
Well, Meat loves Call of the
You know
Wild,
what?
doesn't he?
He loves
You know
Call of the
what?
Wild.
I might just leave. No. Anyway, I'm gonna request a song that Jex was trying to request the last time I was on with Jex, and he was trying to describe it. Oh no, I wasn't on. Jex was on, and he was trying to describe what it was, and I couldn't get it to you fast enough because I knew what he was talking about. Plasticine. That's what he was talking about.
Oh, Bones and Clothes. I don't think I have it anymore.
Oh, well, because he said in that thing, he's like, they changed their name, and I'm like, you're talking about Plasticine, and
I don't have it anymore because I can't monetize if I use that song. So
okay,
I don't have it anymore.
Then play that Rob Daniels thing that had the black and white.
Visions and Sound by T-Bone Erickson. Okay.
Yeah.
Dan, send me a message, buddy. I can't play Dio. That'll demonetize me.
And I just want to say, is it possible after you play this that the three of us can talk on here?
Yeah, I'll hang out.
Yeah,
I'll hang out.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So we're going with by T-Bone Erickson, a little tribute to our frequent co-host and friend, Mr. Rob Daniels. This is an instrumental called A Vision and Sound. We will see you December 31st at 9:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a Grab a Stack of Rock year-end party. Take care, everyone. Rock and roll.